How are you guys doing today? Today we're back with another video. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. We are back talking about the spread of misinformation using social media. Talked about it a little bit in my last video. I'm gonna touch up on it a bit some more. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you want to. So, I think COVID-19 showed how dangerous social media could be used. Because it can be a tool to connect us with loved ones, family, friends, and the rest of the world. But it can also be a tool, if not used properly, it can do a lot of harm. So, like for instance, during COVID-19, there were some people spreading information about that it could affect the presidency if people who were pregnant got the vaccine, saying that it could cause miscarriages, infertility, birth defects if they got the vaccine during COVID-19, which there is no studies proving that it would cause all of that, but people were still saying that without the knowledge. At the same time, people were scared, so people didn't know if to believe the people who were saying all this stuff was going to happen if they took the vaccine, or to believe the doctors who were coming out with the vaccine. So they didn't know who to believe. So a lot of people, some people didn't take it, got sick while they were pregnant, and it caused harm to the baby because the people spreading misinformation about the effects of the vaccine. So it was a really scary time for most people, and you gotta think people got families and stuff, and need to keep their family safe from getting sick. And you tell them not to take the vaccine, or like new mothers, they're not taking the vaccine now, their baby is put at risk because certain people are spreading misinformation about the vaccine. But none of that was true. But people were harmed because of the misinformation that was spread, which would bring me to into where I believe people during the vaccine, during that time where there was news stations, people posting on their TikToks and Twitters and Instagrams. I think there should have been some type of consequence for these people, because even though there's spreading I get everybody was scared, there's spreading misinformation, but it's like people were hurt because of the information they were putting out there that was not true. So I think they should have been, even now, it's only been a couple years later, but I think some of them should be held accountable for their actions and the harm that they caused. But that's the thing with social media, it's not really much you can do. Most they ever do is ban them off the site, or if it's somebody on the news who said it, they might lose their job. But it's like, people were hurt. It was in a time of panic. They're looking to the news, looking towards people who are valid sources usually, and when it came to COVID, they were giving out misinformation. But social media did play a huge part in the spread of misinformation. But I think when it came to monkeypox, that social media was more helpful because we already been through COVID. We already, seen what can happen when people spread misinformation. So I think it was definitely handled way better than COVID-19. And there's a lot more factual information spread during monkeypox, and the outbreak. I think because of that, the outbreak wasn't as bad as COVID-19. Because you can remember back then watching the news, and they would say, "Oh, it's not going to be, that long. Maybe only a couple weeks," and it ended up being years, like 2 to 3 years of lockdown, pretty much. It was a hard time for everyone. Even then, I remember, watching the news. I remember they took us out of school for like 2 weeks. We'll be back. It's nothing serious. It ended up being a world-threatening disease. Took many lives, and it was a hard time for everybody. A lot of people couldn't go to work, couldn't get to their jobs if the jobs were even open. You know, people were stuck in their homes. You gotta think that takes a toll on the mental too. And then they're reading all this stuff online, this and that, this saying that, this, and the majority of it was not credible sources. People were just even some people were just trying to get their little limelight, their little spotlight, But I don't think it was worth spreading misinformation, hurting people, causing more trouble than good. But a lot of people were harmed. I don't think, I think I would hope if this was ever to happen again, hopefully not, but I would hope it would be handled a lot better. I don't think everybody should be able to say whatever they want online about, what you should do, what you shouldn't do when you don't know. A lot of these people weren't doctors. I read up on an article about people on Twitter spreading misinformation about the vaccine. Some of them were licensed doctors, but it was only like 2 or 3 of them, and there was about 70 other that weren't, and they were just spreading misinformation about the vaccine. The ones that were licensed doctors, they did lose their certificate, but it's like, what about the people who weren't doctors? They still have Twitters, they still have access to social media. Stopping them from, if this ever happened again, to spread more misinformation, to get a click, a like, a retweet. I definitely think there should be more of a punishment to these people who are spreading misinformation, either unknowingly or some of them know, that they're hurting people. Because now, let's say you don't get the vaccine, you get sick, you have an infant at home, elderly at home, now they get sick, they're in the hospital because this person spread misinformation, and it got to you. You didn't know what to believe, so you didn't get the vaccine. Now your family's at risk, parents at risk, child could be at risk, and I don't think the people who are spreading this misinformation are getting that. They're doing more harm than good. But I really hope that consequences are given to some of these people, and that next time around we'll have a better source before we put out information. I know it was a scary time for everyone, but I definitely think it could have been handled way better with the use of social media and the news outlets. But that's pretty much all I have to say for today. But I definitely believe we could have did better, and hope in the future we will do better as a people. Thank you for your time. Hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day.